night, everyone. Welcome again to Omah Library, and tonight we will have the fifth session of Genesis and Method. And tonight we will have Kevin Low from Malaysia. He will share about specific continuation from the previous one in the last year, I suppose, if I don't get. So before we start, I will introduce to you about first. And my name is Satria. I will be your host tonight, and in the background we have Lulu, Nirma, and Hanifah, the librarian. So Omah Library with the philosophy of home for restless spirit aims to be a forum that facilitates access to architectural literacy and becomes a meeting point between students, academic and practitioner. Book writing and editorial is done in Omah with the spirit of sharing knowledge. And through literacy, we try to start a discussion that answers the various challenges that exist in the field of architecture, starting from the discussion of theory, history, criticism, methods, investigation, and as well as driving and architectural work. And you can access of our lectures, previous lectures, in our website in omahlibrary.org. You can access it for free, and we have edited and uploaded several of our previous lectures. And in this session, as I have told you in the beginning, we also have some lectures that runs in this December, and in tomorrow we will have Tua Tua Keladi about the class about sharing session with the young people with their amazing platform, with the outmind and with the greatest challenges in their league. So if you are interested, don't hesitate to register at omah_sttk1. So also in this December, we will conduct one more young platform, which titled Darah Muda. Will explore the ups and downs experiences of the young architect, and we have 5 sessions, and the last one will conduct in 17 December. Invite Hendrik Tanuwijaya, which a very mindful person, and if you're interested with this one, you can register at bit.ly/omah_smooth. All those links are available in omahlibrary.org, so you can access this easily. And in this tonight session, we will have Kevin Low with this class will be moderated by Rilid Sharif as the advisor of Omah. So without further ado, I will call Rilid Sharif as our moderator tonight.
Satria?
Yeah.
Can you hear my voice?
Yeah, it's loud and clear. So
okay.
I'll take the time to you.
Okay. Kevin, are you here?
Hi, real rich.
Hi, hello. How are you doing, Kevin?
Very
Long time
good.
no see.
You don't have to introduce, actually. I can just start talking. It's silly to introduce a lot of history. That's not so important, yeah.
But I mean, we need to have a bridge for the audience so they know the context.
Okay.
Are you okay for me to introduce you?
Go ahead.
Okay. In this 5th session of the Genesis of Design Method, we will invite Kevin Lowe from the small project with a discussion titled The Specific Context. It's how the service of our pride inevitably leads to the dark generalized treatment of context. This I want to have like a Kevin to explore how this kind of like a specific like a dark generalized treatment of context in use of purely formal contextual element as a backdrop of creativity. In the neglect of the absolutely vital relationships, as collectively provide proper definition and understanding for each specific context. I think Kevin here is I think it's the second times before we have like a pride session in the under and business series. In that kind of series, I mean, he questioned about the how far our practice should follow the noble ideas of being an architect. So what's the limit and what's the discourse of it? So I think we learned that these design methods before they are can call it like a situational, like a contextual. But I think it has a certain limit and it's complex as well. While it's complex, it needs to be clear and specific. So multidisciplinary and multi-relational. In this class, the discourses are continued into very personal and collaborative in experimentations to understand how a design method begins. In this Kevin session, I'm quite interested to see his approach and his thinking about the how the specific context can color the design method. Just sometimes is like generalized and commodified. I think let's use this session to discourse this term, like the context, its specificity, and then the design method itself. Okay, Kevin, I'll just
Thanks.
leave the floor to you.
Thanks very much
Yes,
for
thank you
your
so much.
introduction. Maybe I can just screen share, yeah?
Yes.
I have a proper lecture tonight.
Last time you did have a slides, only one or two slides, right?
Just one slide, I think.
But it's totally amazing to see the discourse given. Okay, I'll see. Okay, I'll leave it to you. It's pretty clear.
You know, thanks for having me here tonight. You know, architecture is referred to as the mother of all arts. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this phrase, but and when we think of it as the mother of all arts, we usually think of it as higher than all the other artistic and creative endeavors. It is the mother of all the arts. But this is the wrong interpretation of it, actually. When we refer to architecture as the mother of all arts, we are speaking of it not as being only an art, but also, more importantly, as a science of the human sciences, about responsibility and about how we serve actual people, relationships, not just functions, but society as a whole. And that is why it is a mother of all arts, not because it is above the other arts. But that's the trouble. You see, when we think of ourselves as artists, we behave like artists. And I don't know whether, you know, if you're invited to give a talk about context, you'll talk about your work and how, you know, batik or you know, the hutan or the jungle, and it inspires your work, and your work has got references to batik or hutan or what of this stuff, yeah? Or maybe some traditions of Jakarta that you have, you're using a certain material that is very common, and suddenly you call it keren, you know, or you call it whatever that is unique to that part of Jogja, maybe you're designing in. And so you take context and your work demonstrate the context. But this is not what context is about, isn't it? Many architects, they talk about, when they talk about context, they're not talking about context. They're talking about the work with context as the backdrop, you know, as the stage. I don't know if I'm making this clear, but maybe I should just start with the slides. You see, when you think of yourself as an artist, you always, some of the purest artists are musicians, you know, whether it's an orchestra, and you see the orchestras around the world are very similar. It's a huge stage, and there are performers on the stage, yeah? In the grand piano, there's a whole orchestra, and to belong to a philharmonic, a symphonic philharmonic orchestra is very, very honored. You know, you're very honored to be accepted to play in one of these international philharmonics. It's not easy to get in. You train your whole life just to be in one of these orchestras. You know, the same way, that you might want to work in an office of a very famous architect, Rem Koolhaas maybe, or Peter Zumthor. You work your whole life just to be a person in that. But except that there's a big difference, in an orchestra, you see that they can be big, there are people all around them, and there's a conductor and sometimes a soprano or a solo violinist, and the conductor, is the one really that all the attention is drawn towards, whether it's male, female, Chinese, black, Caucasian. The conductor is the one that you look to, the one with all the drama, the one with the excitement, showing you what is possible with music. It's this amazing performance. And the stage is not important. The context is only to host the music, because music is its own art. Yes, this is what these artists do. Now, we think it's not only in the symphonic orchestras. It's in any musical endeavor. Yeah, the stage is where all the lights shine from, and all the people are cheering for the heroes up on the stage, whether it's Steve Tyler, yeah, and that's the stage disappears. The stage is only there to host the performer, the artist, the musician, or the architect. Yeah, and there are different kinds of musicians. There are different kinds of performances. Some are solo, performances, rock artists. Others are group performances with a lot of drums, a lot of excitement. Some are duos. Some are, a small group, but with one main character. And others are a whole ensemble, the different stages are designed to suit what each performance is. The context changes according to what the performer wants the context to be. Yeah. In the same way, architects behave like this. We have got different kinds of music we play, and so we will become the solo architect. We'll become the duo, and there's a certain way we present ourselves. There's a certain way we present ourselves as a group with a lot of energy, another way in which it's quite serious. And, so we brand ourselves as architects the same way musicians do. There's a certain vibe to each different performance, yes? Except that with musical artists, their context is changed according to what they wanted or needed to be. Architects behave like them, but our context is completely different, isn't it? So I'm not going to talk about my work as usual because it's very boring for me. And like I said before, if you like it, and if you don't like it, then you have wasted your time, and I've wasted my time, right? Embarrassing myself. And if you like it, something weird happens. If you like the work presented by someone who's talking to you, you start to imitate that work in your own work, which is brainless to me. You see, so I don't like talking about my work. I want to talk specifically about context tonight, and the difference between a musical artist who is a performer and an architect, and the context of an architect, which is a very different thing from a stage, from a backdrop. So with this as a preamble, I want to talk about specific context, because the general context of a stage is fine for musical performance because it is always changed according to what that musical performance needs. But architectural context doesn't change for you. You will change, of course, what the context is, because you are the big show, and you will change what your stage is. Yes, you appropriate your stage and you change it. But I want to show you some examples tonight as a follow-through continuation of my earlier lecture on pride, where I only showed one slide and I showed different examples. I'm going to focus on 3 examples of that tonight. The first is the Makoko Floating School, Lagos, 2013 to 2016. It was started by this man, Kunle Adeyemi, who was invited, he in a way was invited himself. He had a friend called Noah Shimede, who was a principal of the school in Lagos, in the Makoko slum, floating slum. And the school had grown too big for its premises, and he needed it to be bigger. So Adeyemi came along with some ideas, and he built this school, and he also submitted it for the Venice Biennale, and then he floated a prototype in the lagoon also. This is a man. I want to show the faces of these people whom we are talking about, because we are always very proud of our heroes, but we don't realize that everyone is as imperfect as you and me. And architects, we try to make ourselves look like perfect. We try to make ourselves look like gods, and we are not. Architects do the same things as branding experts do. Look at the first photograph on the top right. You see his simple t-shirt, and you look at his context. He has got garbage on the side. This is important image, because architects will not allow a photograph to be taken without their knowledge of what their context usually is. Maybe in Indonesia, it's not sophisticated yet, but you will learn maybe all the bad examples by famous architects from the West and around the world who become famous. But look at his context. It is not a fancy context, and it's got garbage on one side. He holds a simple water bottle, plastic. Maybe this is not intended, but he poses also. An architect will pose for you if the photograph is being taken for a magazine. And this is what one of the most important elements of how you make yourself a famous architect. How you put yourself, or how you use the context to portray what you want people to think of what you do. Okay, let's get to the project. Where's Lagos? It is over here in Africa. Let's zoom in. It is facing south. This is the city of Lagos. This is the huge lagoon. And we're going to zoom into this area over here, which is where the Makoko floating village is. This is the Makoko floating village. It is almost unreal. It almost looks like land. But actually, in actuality, if you can see my arrow, the land actually stops all the way back here. Yeah, everything after the line of my arrow is all man-made, artificial. We will zoom in closer to one of these, and you will see this is Makoko. These are all Google Earth images, but Makoko was first, the Makoko floating village was first made famous by an architectural photographer by the name of Iwan Bahan. He's a very famous architecture photographer. He does all the famous big photographs of famous architects, you know, Zaha Hadid, Frida Zumthor, you know. Anyway, this is what Makoko is all about. And if you see, they are separated by little waterways, yeah? These waterways are the roads of Makoko. They are the roads. There are some intersections, here, there, but they are all tied in by major arteries, secondary roads, and then tertiary roads all the way in. Yeah, we'll zoom in a bit closer. Oh, sorry, a bird's eye view of where it goes into the city in the background. This is the Makoko floating village. It's quite intense, actually. And you see, they are gathered into pockets. There's a pocket here separated by the main arteries. They're all grouped. Yeah. We zoom in closer on the other side to the facing south. This is the long bridge that cuts, that makes a shortcut past the lagoon. All these things that look like rubbish out there are actually fishing, floating fisheries and farms for the villagers to breed fish for their own food and also for selling. This is a main road, trunk road going to the lagoon itself. We zoom into an intersection, and this is what you see. Now, it is very easy to believe when you look at this image that Makoko is all about the boats. But actually, the boats, it is not about the boats. It's actually about the architecture, the houses, you know, and the little decks they have all around, yeah? And how they're grouped and how they live together with boats and garbage. But the boats are the means to get from here to there, not to live or to dwell in. This is one of the most important things to understand about Makoko. It is the specific context of Makoko that the boats are used as bridges. They're used to walk from one place to another. They are used as transport. They are used for all the deliveries and for the children to go to the school within the village itself. So what did Adeyemi do? He built a school and he floated the school. And there are many famous photographs here also by Iwan Bahan, where he puts the school children in the boats going to the school. The school is shown there away from the village. And there was a prototype made of the floating platform with the village in the background, the children loving it, playing football. This is very exciting for them, you know, because this is their new school. And it was an important sort of a project for them, yeah? This is a diagram from Adeyemi's website, yeah? So the Makoko floating school, he's got in and out. He's got 100 students and teachers sandwich with knowledge in the middle, exchange inside a big triangle, and the knowledge comes out to serve community of 100,000. So 100 students sandwich with teachers and knowledge to exchange to output the food of knowledge to feed a community of 100,000. Yeah. So the legend, quite self-explanatory: red meaning knowledge, purple meaning users, and community in bright red. I'm not sure, but look, there are two triangles actually. There's one small triangle and there's another big triangle. Where did the triangles come from? We look at another diagram. This is also from his website, a diagram that he produced. He goes tropical, increasing tropical rainfall, increasing sea levels. Of course, the dark blue is what is existing. The light blue is what's increasing. And you can see it's inside the floor, so flooding. Yeah. Local Makoko technology plus global flotation technology equal. So the bottom, the lower sea level, and it floats up. So it's safe. Derived solution. Yeah. But something is wrong with this diagram. I don't know if you remembered an earlier photograph. Do you remember this photograph? What is wrong with the first diagram? Firstly, the roofs are all flat. This is not local Makoko technology. This is a space rocket roof. And it does not belong to Makoko. Everything is flat, yeah? And another thing about Makoko, it is not floating. This at the bottom is correct. All of these tiny columns for the houses go all the way through the water to the lagoon bed, and they are embedded inside the soil. So that's not floating actually. It's just a romantic notion. So this diagram is wrong because half of it is correct and the other half of it is incorrect. And then you're beginning to wonder, this kind of looks like a triangle. Wonder what that's all about. But anyway, this is really what the diagram should be. And this, of course, is the global flotation technology, but local Makoko technology should be still going down. So if you were to rectify this diagram, it's actually potong tampal. You take out what you don't want of local Makoko technology, you paste global flotation technology with something else which is not from Makoko, and you have not a derived solution, you have two triangles of a contrived solution. Okay? So local Makoko technology is not there at all. It is just a triangle, and then you know where the two triangles come from. The smaller triangle is sitting on top of another. It's not really a triangle, but that's a flotation device. Yeah. So that's where this diagram is. And you know, Adeyemi is not the only one. Architects all over the world tell lies like this. We all do weird things with our diagrams, and of course, in Southeast Asia, we're all stupid, so we believe everything we see. Yeah. But we can talk about this later. So this is another diagram that he came up with. So he's got two triangles. Actually, it is one triangle on top of a floating raft. And the raft is at the bottom, of course. Sorry, go back. He's got the roof on part of the one side and down much more on the other side. A lot of louvers so that the wind can blow through. From one side. But of course, not so much opening on the other side. So only one small opening for a bit of wind to blow through. Some wind, not so much through the classroom. You can see this window is very, very small, but okay, maybe more arrows on the other side. And then he's got a lot of playground and green area at the bottom. And actually, forget about the green area. It's just a playground. I mean, the problem, green things cannot grow underneath a shade, yeah, a roof. So these green cute animals, you can take it out because it's just a playground, yeah. So this is his diagram for his project. So he got this built. Look, he built it. Also photographs by A1 Ban. If you want to be a famous architect, you hire A1 Ban. He will send, if your projects are half good, he will make it very famous for you. But he's not cheap, yeah? About maybe $50,000 US to photograph your beautiful project. And of course, you cannot put your floating school inside the kampong. You must pull it out, yeah? Because it's floating. It's an island, a lantern of knowledge, yeah? So you put it out in the lagoon, you surround it with the boats, yeah? To bring children to the school, you show people inside, loving it, celebration. It is the new lighthouse of knowledge. And then you put lights on it, of course, at night. And then you engage, of course, in our day and age, you must do social media, and you advertise it, of course, in Twitter. You get it published by The Guardian, one of the most famous journals in London. And you have a very good title, Inside Makoko, Danger and Ingenuity. So risk and intelligence in the world's biggest floating slum. Never mind, it's not floating. I mean, tampal lah itu, potong tampal lah itu floating romantic, yeah? And explain how this is so important. This school is so important. And then, of course, you have to put your name with other famous architects in international conferences around the world, yes? And also get photographed with even more famous architects around Kulhas to show that you, of course, we all love to be in the company of famous architects, yeah? If you can be photographed with Rem Koolhaas, I think any one of you will be very excited too, yeah? We can talk more about this later. But anyway, social media is part of the brand. And look, they're all in black too, You remember the conductors in the musical performances, they love black, yeah? Architects, because we feel they were performers, you see. So we're all in black. And we, of course, must have some Twitter photographs of school children with the blue and the yellow to match the wood. But this is all the important thing about the project, you see. And the final photograph by A1 Ban, this is his name, you should Google him. The project floating in front of the village behind, absolutely beautiful. It won the Silver Bear in Venice Biennale, presented by Alejandro Aravena himself. And 2 weeks after it won the Silver Bear and the Venice Biennale, it completely catastrophically collapsed in a tropical rainstorm. Now, why did this happen? Well, firstly, thank God, 1 week before it collapsed, the principal, Noah Shemede, realized that something was very bad wrong with the school. The whole floor was sinking to one side. It was not sinking yet, it was just listing to one side, there was a slope. So, and he didn't feel good about it. There was a lot of sound, and so he evacuated the school, which is very good because 6 days later, there was a terrible storm, the wind blew, and the whole school collapsed. Now, why did this happen? Such an interesting project with, well, seemingly, boats floating. This is part of Makoko, the boats are part of, but he didn't really think carefully. Let's go back to the earlier image. Remember, local Makoko technology is all columns inside the earth, under the water, yeah? This school is not, it's floating. So this is not about Makoko. It's got nothing to do with the specific context of Makoko. Now, what exactly is the specific context of Makoko? Do you remember one of the earlier slides I was showing you where everything is grouped together with the big highways passing in between, the groupings of the kampong? Makoko is grouped that way because it behaves like an organism. You cannot put one house alone, even with the columns going into the soil. You cannot put one house alone sitting out there because when the wind blows, it will fall down. The people here are too poor to use bigger columns, to use concrete. They all use cheap wood, but they put many of the buildings close to each other so that when the wind blows on the outer ones or among the ones that are next to a road, the water road, it is shored up. It is given structural support by all the other small houses behind it. So Makoko behaves like multiple organisms grouped together. And because they're grouped closely, even the roads are not that wide, the wind passes around them rather than through them. And that's another reason why all their roofs are flat, so that the wind will not catch any roof to blow it like a spear or a knife into another roof, into another house. So everything about Makoko is very specific to the poverty. They cannot afford bigger wood. They cannot afford concrete. They cannot afford steel. Everything is specific to the fact that they have to group their houses to form organisms that give group support. And nothing is floating. They cannot float because they cannot afford to float. If anything floats, when the wind blows, everything will move away from there. Their roads will disappear. The houses will crash into each other. Nothing will exist anymore. And look at what Adeyemi did. If you look at this shape, this is the shape of a boat, but a shape of a boat upside down. Usually the bottom part should be in the water, no? To give it proper flotation. So he firstly made this look like a boat, but upside down, so that it looks like a sail of a boat. And what does a sail of a boat do? It catches wind. The sail is sticking up above the boat, the hull of the boat. in order to catch the wind to make it move. But if you make the bottom of the boat flat, it cannot move properly and it will capsize. So this is an example of, look, especially this, where he puts it, he didn't put it inside. He didn't make it flat. He didn't make it disappear the way all the houses disappear into Makoko, because this is the famous musical artist, you see. This is the conductor conducting everyone. So Makoko, floating context, is used as the stage for the performer, you see. The performer cannot disappear. It must float out in the lagoon. It must be special. It must be like the boat, which is not actually only for transport in Makoko. So this project completely ignores specific context in trying to make believe that this fits in. When you look at it, yes, it looks like it can belong in Makoko, but it's like a lighthouse of knowledge. So it can fit in the material, in the cheapness of construction, in the lightness of the construction, in the looks. It fits in Makoko, except that the massing of the look is completely inappropriate because it ignores completely specific context. Yeah, like a musical artist who uses the stage and changes the venue, the context, to suit what he wants. In this case, the architect used the context as the inspiration for what he's doing, except that it was completely inappropriate. Yeah, so that's why the project collapsed. Now I'm going to move to the next one, the High Line in New York in 1991. Now I'm not sure if many of you have heard of this project. It was designed by Dillard, Scofidio, and Renfro. But I'm going to explain a bit about how this High Line actually came about. It was originally not called the High Line. It was called the Elevated Railway System. Now what it was is in Chelsea district in New York, back in the 1930s, yeah, 1930s, 1940s, there was a meat packing industry where the big boats came, where the big trucks, the railway system came to deposit meat and to deliver meat. And this is where the meat was packed, it was frozen, it was transported from one part of the country to another. And this area of Chelsea became known as the meat packing district. And there were many abattoirs, there were many, it was where the transportation terminals met the factories, yeah? But it was very dangerous because between 11th to 12th to 14th Avenue, it became known as Death Avenue because of all the different kinds of transport. You got horses, you got cars, you got trains, you got carts, you have all kinds of machinery using the same road. This guy on the horse is there to warn people because the train is coming. It was so dangerous, 6 people will die every day being hit by a train or a horse or a car. So they decided, look at the bottom right slide. This shows you what's all about. And it was so dangerous, they decided to elevate the railway, meaning cars and horses are enough to deal with for pedestrians. You will lift the railway higher, it's much safer because the railway is the biggest wall to block view. So they built the elevated railway at a huge cost. It was one of the biggest infrastructural projects in the world at the time. Specifically at this time, and they lifted the whole railway and they completed it. And when it was completed, it was amazing with the New York and the skyline. At the 34th railway yards where all the boats were docked, all the trains came out. You could see the main train line coming around here, looping around past the Central Grand Post Office, right down Manhattan, right into buildings, through buildings, coming out from buildings where they had a train stop, running straight down the length of Manhattan Island to St. John's Landing in the lower half of Chelsea. And what was amazing was it did not only serve the meat packing industry, the trains were used for commuters, that normal people were happy to get off the road and they used it like every day for commuting. So it was incredibly successful. But over the years, as the meat packing industry slowly left downtown Manhattan, it became unused. And it ran into some disrepair. The brown grass in summer started taking over. Some railway tracks rusted, they fell out of operation, and it became a bit dilapidated. This is what Chelsea was like back in 1990s. It was a community around the elevated railway of many different kinds of shops. A lot of diversity. You had used record shops, You had a gasoline alley where you could get a simple oil change, get a puncture, tire fix. You could wash your car, wash your motorcycle. There were small bars. There were shoe repair, car, key. It almost looks like parts of Surabaya, no? Or Jakarta, yeah? It had mom and pop stores, luncheonettes, pizzas, delicatessens, hot dog shops. It had gift shops and cleaner shops as well, florists. And most importantly, it had affordable housing. In fact, this part of New York was one of the birthplaces of cooperative housing, where many people share services. They only own the apartment, they only rent the apartment, but they share a lot of the other services so that the cost of the rental is made very affordable. So this is what Chelsea used to be. Incredibly diverse, very vivid, the perfect definition of a city, that's of a district, a community, a neighborhood that's completely alive. This is where Chelsea is, yeah? And the elevated railway originally ran all the way from the 34th Street docks, the yards, all the way down the side of Manhattan, the west side of Manhattan, to St. John's Landing, which is over here. Now, what happened when the part of it fell out of use? They dismantled it, and it got shortened to maybe 1.1 miles, about 1.5 kilometers. And this became what was known as the High Line. It was left dilapidated and sitting above the ground until two men came along that said they wanted to do something with it. This is Bob Hammond, a recent graduate from Princeton. This is Joshua David, who is a part-time Hollywood actor. They were living in Chelsea, and they loved the diversity. They loved all the buzz and all the vibrancy of this. And they thought, why don't we convert the High Line into a park? Wow! So they invited the architects, and you can see the architects here. That's Dillard, Scofidio. I think that's Bob Renfro. I'm not sure. Maybe that's Bob Renfro. They've added someone new, but you can tell the architects, they're all black, yeah, or gray, and even the buttons are black, yeah. And this is the landscape architect, also in black, James Corner of Field Operations. And you can see, the minimalist background. And architects, they either look away from you or they look directly at you. They never really do anything in between. So, and of course, James Corner picking his context very well. The High Line, very desolate, almost like, a superhero beginning to get born with the jacket open. So this is the High Line. What they proposed was to remove everything on top of the existing steel structure. So they are maintaining the steel structure, tearing out everything above to put the new park. And of course, the new park will have trees, a lot of lovely grass, some soil, and they were keeping exactly the routing. This is the Grand Post Office. These are the 34th train yards. It would run all the way from 34th Street with some, of course, stairs going up, another stair on 26th, coming down to 23rd, big stair, 20th, another small stair, big stair, and then right down to Gansworth Street. So they were keeping all the existing structure, just taking out the top. And that's what they did. They tore it all up, all the stuff that existed. They took it all up and they put on the new lovely material. They relayed the railway tracks. And this is the High Line, the way it is today. And I don't know if any of you have been there, but looking at the slides, I'm very bothered by this. It's very troubling. I don't know if you see what I see, but everything kind of looks the same. It's almost like a sidewalk above that you can't access anything else. It's like a boardwalk, of people. Some are raised platforms. There's some lookout points, but everything's quite the same in a way, The people even look quite the same. And maybe there's an explanation for that later. But I want to show you a few slides that I came across of the High Line before the project was started. Yeah, these photographs were taken before the architects and the developers did the project. Yeah, this is in late summer. This is in late morning, I believe, in fall, looking towards the Hudson River. This is the 34th train yards. When you turn around, you see it turn around the corner to go walk to on its way down Manhattan. and the tall wild grass. This is in the late summer when everything is burnt and dead. This is in early summer, and you can see this crazy ecosystem there. All these trees looking like they're trying to strain for the sky, whatever light they have. This is a late morning in summer once again, looking down, straight down to St. John's Landing to the south, Cairnswood Street, sorry. Side alleys, you know, they had side streets. Some fields of wildflowers and other green poppycocks growing in the distance. And the detail, you know, I'm not exactly sure. I think these are not lavenders. These are, but wildflowers. No one planted these. These were always there from the start, growing among the wild grass and the railway tracks. Look at that. This is late afternoon, towards the end of summer, back to the 34th train yards, the Hudson River beyond. Look at that light and the old railway sleepers, you know, signal boxes, midsummer here. Quite amazing, no? That luminous quality in some parts of this High Line was just amazing. Sometimes you didn't even know you're in New York. You felt like you were in a field in Arkansas or in the Midwest, you know. I walked the High Line before the project happened in the early 90s, and this is the same thing I saw. There was a remarkable, some parts of it were almost like a landscape painting, yeah. This is one of the train station stops, the timber deck, and the little details of the wildflowers that were growing in this amazing ecosystem, yeah. Yeah, you know, the burnt grass, the old rusted railway tracks, the switches not working anymore, the green grass everywhere, and in summer turning dead brown. In late summer, fall, winter, and spring, there was a changing sense of what this urban environment was, you know, quite amazing. You see, the High Line, the elevated railway in New York, was an amazing ecological slice, urban ecological slice that you could not find in any other city of the density of New York, anywhere in the world. It was a unique little part of New York that, that just happened through evolution. Sure, some branches fell once in a while, but of course that happens everywhere in nature. That's what an ecosystem does, no? And you see the slide in winter, I'm not sure if you remember it, but there are all these footsteps on it. Yes, people were using it for shortcuts also in the neighborhood, the community of Chelsea were using High Line. They had barbecues and they smoked ganja, marijuana in summer on top, and did gambling and of course had fun. And they tore that all up. They removed every single bit of that. We love nature as long as we get to choose what kind of nature it is. We throw it all away and we put our version of curated nature, yeah, of shrubs. We remove all the existing shrubs and all the lovely flowers, and we put in our curated flowers, because our designed nature is better than God's nature. Yes, and it is one long boulevard, yeah, of sightseeing from one side to the next in bright sunlight, in rain. Of course, they kept some of the existing railway tracks. After they removed them, cleaned them all up and put them back, they kept some of the existing railway tracks and put a fence around it, kind of like a graveyard, you know, of the thing that they killed. Look at that. Look at this lovely graveyard of the, they maintained the railway tracks and they put flowers around it like an offering to the gods. You cannot step there anymore. These are the living things we murdered, and we are keeping gravestones as. And there are many beautiful areas for people. Of course, this is about the people, yeah? Of course it must be about the people. How can you do something to nature without having some benefits? So these are all for the people. They've got people walking and people looking and sitting, yeah? And some are in the shade, some are sitting, looking at other people walking, and some are playing games, some are reading papers, some are drawing, some are eating food, and it's all about people. Wonderful. Except that All these people have one thing in common. They're all tourists. Yeah, because tourists do not wake up before 10 o'clock in the morning, and they're all deserted in the morning. And locals don't go there anymore, because when you got 3,600 people flooding this project every day, you do not want to go there. These are all tourists. That's the one thing they have in common. Okay, maybe we go down to the ground a little bit, yeah? Chelsea district, yeah? This is the ground level of Chelsea district after the park, the Highline Park was completed. I don't know if you guys know, but Chelsea, this part of New York, Chelsea was the global birthplace of graffiti. Look at that. This kind of graffiti you will not find anywhere else in the world. It began in Chelsea, in New York. You've got Leonard Nimoy, you've got Einstein, you've got, you've got remarkable graphics, typography. Graffiti typography was invented here. Tyrannosaurus Rex on top of the High Line with the old grass. Well, most of that doesn't exist anymore. They brought in their own brand of curated graffiti. Once again, graffiti is good, it's important, but only if it is ours, yeah, not yours. So they've got their graffiti on the High Line now by internationally recognized famous graffiti artists, not these boring local fuckers, Sorry, my language. We got internationally famous graffiti artists who can do a better job. So this is now the graffiti of Chelsea. And remember all that amazing variety, that amazing diversity. They're all gone. They can't afford to live there anymore. It's been replaced by big brands like Google and Zaha Hadid and Bjarke Ingels and Daniel Libeskind. Yeah, I think you can recognize this has to be Libeskind, yes? This is definitely Hadid, or maybe it's Ingels. I can't remember. They all look all the same. And Barney's, of course, the big names. The prices skyrocketed in Chelsea the moment the project was finished, as everyone involved knew it would. Everyone who invested in it, including the architects and the landscape architect, they knew how expensive it would get. They knew it all along. And of course, there's room for designers, graphic artists. They get to produce a map of one line of a snake with a bit of yellow, and some lookout points for the architects to do hand railings and cool benches. And the landscape architect also, of course, Pierre Oldorf was asked to contribute something. He's a famous Dutch, I think it's Dutch, landscape architect, very famous also. He's got some of his thumbprint here. And the architects, of course, you cannot just make ordinary benches. The benches have got to be peeled off the existing surface so that it looks like the floor came up to allow your bottom as well as your feet to use, except your bottom deserves wood. So the granite doesn't carry on, and it is unusual slope there. People trip on it a lot because it is angled, But you get a chance to design anything you want to show off your creativity on this lovely stage. And the stage continues to be used, to be expanded on. This is phase 1 finished. They've got more buildings coming up on either side and on left and right. And they got phase 2 and phase 3. I think phase 2 is already finished. Phase 3 is coming up, and they've got perspectives to show you what they're going to do next. Yeah, which looks quite the same. But I want to show you some images. This was one of the first images they produced to sell the idea to the investors and to the government, the City Hall of New York. Yeah. I don't know if you remember, but basically they just took what was already there and they stuck. They put their version of the high. Of course, the High Line is the size of what they are showing as park, and the park is the size of what they're showing as the walkway. So basically, they didn't do anything in that perspective. They just put a piece of designed furniture to sell the idea, but they didn't tell the people they would be throwing away all the stuff that they were showing as part of their park. There are many comments, of course, that you never read. The problem is this, where Adeyemi's project has been recognized as a failure and even so not published, but everyone knows because it catastrophically failed. You cannot hide that. But of course, Adeyemi blames the lack of maintenance, yeah? As though school children and the school teacher are supposed to maintain a project that it does not collapse. maybe to keep it clean, yeah, that the toilets don't smell, but to have it collapse like this, I don't know if it's about improper maintenance. The problem is, the difference is this High Line is a complete failure, and yet it is still winning awards as a success. It is still given sustainable awards, great design awards, amazing rehabilitation awards, landscape architectural awards. It's still winning awards all around the world. The only people who know how disgusting it is are the people who used to live there or who still live there. This is a Villager. It's I think a little bi-weekly journal, bi-monthly journal, produced by the Chelsea itself. Look at that in red, yeah? People feel like they've been deceived. I think it should be people's choice. I prefer to give my money to a soup kitchen than to pay for artfully arranged grass. Same thing, you know? It's still a park, but you choose what kind of park it is. The original park was already there. And as for the argument, High Line would only raise property values for those in the district, Mac did not find it a compelling enough selling point. He says, the greatest value in my life is not about the value of my property going up. It is about diversity. Well, all the diversity is gone now. It's all homogenized. The people who buy shit there don't actually live there. They buy it to rent out as better Airbnbs, which is another disgusting thing. We can talk about this later. and it's just rent out to tourists, rich tourists, probably not like you and me. We don't want to stay there. And people don't want to live there because it's so damn noisy with 3,000 people, 600 people looking into your window every day, walking on top of this elevated High Line. But this is not the worst thing about the property values going up for those in the district. You might say that they benefit, but they don't. Because the people who have moved out have been costed out of their affordable rental. They don't live there anymore. They can't work there anymore. They can't rent there anymore. And the people who benefit from the increased value only benefit from that value if they stop becoming residents. They sell it. They sell out, they get the value, and they leave. So as a resident, as a member of the community, you only benefit when you stop becoming a member of the community. This is so twisted. I don't know how obscene, how vulgar it is. And I hope you understand how unbelievable this twistedness is. Yes? Okay. Coming back to something a bit local, the Kebun Bangsa project in Kuala Lumpur, 2015, 2016. What is the Kebun Bangsa about? It is about an idea that Mr. Ng Sek San had. He's a local landscape stylist for what he called an abandoned area of green. It's actually not abandoned. It is a Tenaga National high tension line. You cannot build anything underneath. You cannot build buildings. You cannot even plant trees. All that is allowed to grow are maybe banana plants and wild grass. And he wanted to convert this with his sketches into a lookout point, gravity feed fountains. You can see his fountains like lighthouses all the way down. Flower meadow. He's got a flower meadow, and he's got a permaculture for growing food, and he's got a small hut there for storing, and he calls it the Bangsa Community Park. The Bangsa Community Park. Keep in mind, community, yeah? And this is a sketch he came up with, showing the context, of course, in white, and it does not really look like this. It looks like buildings. It's actually houses that are next to this thing, but it's shown only in green because, of course, the context is not important, yeah? And you can see the walkway. This is the main entrance up here, where houses are. So this is where they're going to jam the entrance. People walking down, walking all over, coming back up to this side. This is a big hill before you go down to a main road behind, and another road coming to one of the houses here. Yeah, this is what it looks like. Of course, you got it didn't draw the permaculture, it was drew the flower meadow. Yeah, so it looks really beautiful. And of course, the context doesn't look like, you don't show the context. It's not important. And of course, you know, you will also wear some black, and you must pick a hero. Yes, Che Guevara. He is a revolutionary, of course. Revolutionaries for change in politics, revolutionaries for change in design. You need to have some image to bank your image on. So this is the site of the Kebun Bangsa. This is all of Kuala Lumpur, yeah? The Twin Towers is somewhere over here. That's the Twin Towers. Now I'm going to show you to exact scale 2 projects. One is the Kebun Bangsa on the bottom left. The other is the actual community park in a low cost, medium cost to low cost neighborhood to the right. Okay, these are the two sites to the exact same scale. Now they look almost exactly the same size, but actually these are all houses and bungalows, which are almost the same size as these 4-story, 5-story apartments. Yeah, this is a mosque in the affordable neighborhood, and the upper class neighborhood of Bangsa is over here, where you have more bungalows, of course. The lower class people live over here. My house is at the back here. Yeah, so these are all terrace houses, but because we are low down, these are up on the hill. So the richer people get to live on the hill. Of course, the people who don't have so much money live in the valley, but that's not a problem. It's still a nice little neighborhood. But this is the site of the Kebun Bangsa existing. The original Kebun Bangsa came all the way down. This was the original site you see in the perspectives of the proposal. Yeah, this lower boomerang was where it was, and they wanted to exit it out here. This is the exact scale size of the actual community park in the medium to low cost neighborhood. The houses and the apartments on either side. Yeah, some are terrace houses, but most are apartments. There's a school here and other apartments there. Now, it is important to know firstly that they are very, very different sites. One, the Kebun Bangsa has roads only on the two short ends, houses on the long ends. The specific context of the other community garden has roads on the two sides of the high tension cable line. So the park runs in the same direction of the high tension cable line, the same with Kebun Bangsa, but the roads are parallel and on either side, the longest length. Okay. Now, what does this mean? It means that you can only access the Kebun Bangsa on the short ends of this Kebun Bangsa to get there. And you have red lines on either side because these are all neighbors who are sitting next to your park. In this case, you can access it anywhere because the road is public. You can just walk across the road to access your park. Another thing to talk about, the original design was meant to be the lower part here, which meant that on the slope, all the water drainage would come out to the neighborhood that I was living in. And the shop houses at the end of here were already getting flooded every time there was a storm because the drains were already not big enough. Even with all the lalang and whatever natural drainage was here, too much water was coming out. So my neighborhood asked to make a petition. They asked me to write it, so I wrote it. And of course, I get blamed for being the bad man, but never mind, to get the Kebun Bangsa out. So they were moved out from this to go upslope. So when they went upslope, there's still only one point of drainage, but the drains here are big enough. What about the other one? The drains are everywhere and it's flat ground. So the drains have 3 directions to flow. There's no problem with flooding. Yeah. Another point of specific context. Now, this is where the original site was planned, okay, for the Kebun Bangsa. This is the existing site for the community park in the low medium cost neighborhood. Look at the difference between the two. One is absolutely horrible. In fact, if you need to do beautification, this is the site to do it because the context is quite bad. There's nothing they can really, it's only bad. You can only make it a bit better. On the other hand, you look at the one on the left. It's quite magnificent, no? And you can see there are little paths and trails to it. Maybe some people are using it, I don't know. But the lovely thing is, it was already, like the High Line and New York, the elevated railway, a piece of evolved ecology, no? When the petition was approved and they were kicked out to go uphill, their phase 2, this is their site with the neighbors on either side. There were some low-lying trees, but because the line was so high, these trees were allowed to remain. But you cannot build buildings underneath this. It's not possible. In the medium cost neighborhood, this is what their site looks like, you know, completely flat, very, very ugly, no beauty, no neighbors to appreciate any beauty that is actually not there. On the other hand, quite a beautiful rolling landscape for these neighbors. Okay, what they had to do is to make a parking lot. So they demolish part of the beginning of this. So all this, about half of this is demolished in order to make the parking lot. And they put these very Karen looking walls, yeah, to make it look cool, like a park. And inside they had nice lawns, of course, plastic furniture and steel chairs, ponds with water lilies. Of course, you can't eat water lilies, but and of course the gravity feed fountains and some heliconias and other water flowering plants. And of course, you got to invite children. You must have children. The children are invited from the neighborhood, not so close by, but some came. Others are brought in by buses from other schools because there are not many people in the actual neighborhood who were in favor of this park. Some were shouting very loudly, yes, they want the park, but they're not living next to the park. And of course, you got to have the school children from the local colleges to build little things there. You plant a lot of flags to make it seem you're politically for the good party and turning public property into a political stage for your context. And of course, the school children drawing pictures of what they envision for the park. Everything is, of course, so beautiful and so lovely because you invite people who are not part of the community to sell your project. And of course, you have people there to love the environment. They are dressed, of course, in a sarong. Most people in Malaysia don't wear the sarong anymore. But community garden, you see, gives city dwellers a place to de-stress amid greenery. What exactly do they mean by community? The people living on the two sides. And of course, they get a politician to do like a dance, to play football in the fields without any shoes, to make it look absolute beauty. The same sort of device that Adayami uses with social media. And yes, you need to have a special way you can boil the tea to make it look absolutely wonderful. Look at the people, they're enjoying this with the steel chairs, you know, quite uncomfortable, but never mind. It's okay because this is a good photograph, because this is what it's designed for. You put a mirror in the wall to selfie and to show everyone in social media, you're in a wonderful viral tourist attraction, yes? And look at the difference between using context for your stage and creativity as opposed to actually allowing context to do what it can do. This community garden is created by the people who live here. They are created by the community who live on either side of the plot. These people are the specific context, and they grew their own plants. And actual community gardens, they do not look beautiful. They are completely functional. They look like this. They grow food that you can eat. They grow chili. They grow onions. They grow spring onions. They grow papaya. They grow mangoes. They grow ugly things. And the soil is always ugly looking because you're always scratching new soil to plant something new that you can grow something on. And the composting is everywhere, because you do not want to have centralized composting when you need the compost to fertilize different parts of your actual community garden. And they grow things with very cheap things, nothing is sponsored, and they farm it all by themselves. They spend time on the weekend because they cannot have the money to hire people to do it. So compare what people do for actual community garden with what a creative community garden looks like, designed by an architect or a stylist, by someone like you or me. This is what we have, yes? You got vegetables for sale. And, yes, I forget, you have got, animals are coming in too. Look at these geese. They brought in a lot of wonderful things. It has become a petting farm. Do you know what a petting farm is? It is where children go to learn about animals in a zoo. And they touch the animals and they make the animals feel happy. And you've got rabbits and geese and lamb and chickens and cockerels, and everyone is loving it. See, they are touching it. Do you know how damaging zoos are to animals when they are not, when they're, we can talk about this in a while. But this is what the covered bugs have become. And this photograph was taken from an article in which some residents complain of the huge noise, the smell, and the flies that have come with these animals, because you do not raise animals without a permit in a residential area of the city. So the Dewan Bandar Kuala Lumpur served a summons to this Kebun Bangsa, and what they did was Kebun Bangsa invited the senior official of DBKL to override the lower junior official and their summons, their compound fine, to have it disappear. So nothing has changed. Everything goes along as normal, and the specific context of the people actually living there are completely ignored. And I don't know if you noticed the bottom photograph on the right. See this man? He is from Myanmar. These are the people actually doing almost all the work. The people here come during the weekends. They do not actually live on either side of this kabun, and they play with animals. They wear nice clothes, and they wear all the right clothing to look like they are doing the right thing, and they enjoy the benefits of the people who are paid to do the work. And last photograph, of course, what used to be there, the specific context on either side. Jangan potong rumput di kawasan ini. So it's okay to remove all the natural shit and plant your own stuff, but some parts of it you don't touch. You know, this is the part we curated, and you cannot do this. This is the Kabun Bangsa Manifesto, the 10 principles to tread lightly on the land. It doesn't matter whether you build bungalows, 25-story buildings, an entire city. If you're going to put your own kabun on existing flora and fauna, you got to remove everything that is there. So much for treading lightly on the land. Respecting the neighbors and civic consciousness. Tell me how you're respecting the neighbors by completely ignoring them and posting viral things on the internet to condemn them when they complain. To inspire children. Yeah, if petting farms and animals are considered inspiration, maybe you can bring them to existing zoos outside, then creating a zoo of your own. To promote inclusion, yes, of the entire Kuala Lumpur community, ignoring the specific context of the community living there. I don't need to go through the rest. I think you guys already know. What is all this about? It's about our reputations, isn't it? It's about our pride, bigger, bolder, and brighter. This is about an advertisement for the Sydney Opera House, about how they are doing musical performances and collaborations, including creative ideas, discussions, and debates. Focus, musical performances, collaborations, creative ideas. I don't know about discussions and debates. How are they doing it? 150 artists, 190 musical performances, and 648 speakers. Vivid ideas. And about the ocean underworld, inspired by insects, plants, of course, using the context of Australia to showcase what their creativity is doing from other parts of the world. We do the same thing in Malaysia, don't we? We do the same thing in Jakarta. We do the same thing as young students and young architects or old famous architects. Look at this. In dollar figures, our tourist industry amounts to 220 billion in 2020. It is about money, isn't it? This is the headline of an article on the next page, The Death of Historical Districts. Apartments and tourists, no. What does that mean? They are marching in protest against too many tourists and rising house prices that are forcing city residents out of their own homes. Even if they're not forced out of their own homes, the tourism is killing these neighborhoods. The arrival of Airbnb and other such home renting platforms has only aggravated the problem. They're not talking about gentrification. They are talking about substituting the original. They're talking about the entire emptying out of the historic district. Yes. Oh, this is an article from Indonesia, actually. This is in, I believe it's in your water park in east of Madura. They took our land, they took our water and our forest for their tourism drive. Governments promote tourism. Governments are in a business of promoting tourism because viral tourism makes more money than creating a war. It creates more money than the selling of oil. It creates more money than the selling of cigarettes. Tourism is killing the planet, yes? And we participate because we each, whether we are doing it for tourist projects, whether we are doing it for community or not, we are doing it by way of using this a specific context as a backdrop to showcase our creativity. Because the only important thing is how good we look as a performer, to use the context to our benefit and not for the benefit of its specificity. Thank you very much. Maybe we can have some questions now or discussion. No? I will stop sharing.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin, for
Very welcome.
this sharing. It's like that. It's like I feel that it's like an irony during your presentations. It feels like the architecture is like a tool as a spectacle, and then losing its, I mean, not losing its power, but losing its critical
Never
setting.
mind, Real Rich, never mind even if we are not doing kabuns, or we are not doing floating schools, or we are not doing public parks. Even when you design a house, for a private client, how often do we use the context as our stage? Because we want others to see how creative our project is, rather than understand the family, understand the neighbor next door. I have made mistakes like that myself. I have designed a house that blocked the view of the neighbor entirely because I was only focused in making it good for my own client. How often do we give a thought for the actual context that is there before we came? Yeah, we behave very badly as architects.
And then what did you do when you realized
the house was built? All I can do is apologize to the neighbor, and all I could do is to tell him, if you need to design a new house that will give you some view back or give you some semblance of a beautiful environment back, I will give you my services for free. It is my responsibility, it's my fault. That is the first time I made such a bad mistake, and I hope it's the last time I make such a bad mistake.
Is it like a part of your way of thinking, Kevin, to have like a self-critical review to your work?
I think we all must, no? I mean, if we don't, and we just want to be architects, that's fine. But in life, there's such a thing as critical thinking, there's such a thing as critical work, and there's such a thing as a critical architect. We also call them the architect's architect. What does it mean to be a critical architect? It means to be self-critical. Otherwise, what is the word critique for? Yes, you can critique other people, but the first thing, it starts with yourself. And of course, if you then extend it to everything else that exists around you, then it's important. But you don't do it. Many of us don't do it because we are worried about our reputation. You cannot be an architect and critique other people. No, it's okay if you can critique yourself as well. And I started my presentations in 20 years ago by presenting my mistakes already. So I'm not ashamed to talk about mistakes. I feel we should not be afraid to criticize other architects too. We should do this in order to ourselves be more accountable. No?
So Kevin, I have like a rhetorical question to you. Are you still believe like the architecture as a mother of all art? In what way then?
Absolutely.
And in what way?
It is the mother of all arts, but in a way which represents not just all the arts, but the arts, the humanities, the arts and the sciences. Do you know everything we call the arts today, everything we are studying in universities everywhere in the world is based on a Western system. Okay? Everything is based on the Western system. How many of us have understood where the Western system of education came from?
Yeah.
It began in Greece, okay? It was called the trivium and the quadrivium. The trivium was called the arts. It was made up of rhetoric, it was made up of music, and it was made up of, I forget now, I'm so sorry. Okay. The quadrivium was made up of mathematics. It was made up of, if you can read up for me, okay? The trivium and the quadrivium. There were the 7 arts and sciences. And as education began to evolve during the Renaissance, they added other things to it. They added theology. They added other things that were not related to the original arts and sciences, okay? And now the most important departments are departments that never existed in the beginning. They are law, they are computer science, they are business management, they are political science, they are architecture, they are all the professions that make money and reputation, okay? Originally, education was not about reputation, it was about responsibility. The arts and sciences helped you understand how to understand relationships different between different people. Today, the arts and humanities are gone. They are so neglected, you don't even have many of these departments at school. And if your daughter or child wants to study the arts and humanities, they are told, hey, this cannot make money. Are you sure you want to do this? Do something like law, be a doctor, be something that can make money. So even the Western form of education has been twisted from its original foundations. If you look at the origins of education from Indonesia, a lot of Indonesia originated from India. Bali is a center of Hinduism, you know. And if you look at Hindu education, it was about the guru system, where the teacher was teaching people about relationships, not about making money, okay? Even in the original Quran, the original Islamic texts, it was all about relationships. In China, all of these were about relationships. Modern life has changed everything, such that you even have a department that you can use to brand and sell all of the other things you're learning in law, architecture, and business education and all that. It's called marketing, the Department of Advertising and Marketing. Yeah, this is a problem.
Yes, Kevin, I have want to ask your opinion about the problem in what I see is the problem in our profession, architects profession in Indonesia, probably in Malaysia as well, where we have only like a small number of architects, like only 15,000, as far as I know, last year, and then and to serve like millions of people, and it's like the progress of the numbers of architects, like versus the numbers of people you want to the serve. It's become like I mean, it's like a chasing all of these things, and it's like the ecosystem is like need to have an improvement in terms of educations.
Well, you know, Real Rich, in a way, it doesn't matter whether it's 15,000 people serving 32 million or whether it is 250,000 people serving 6 million. If all of them behave in the same way, nothing changes. Every country is doomed in exactly the same way. And the architects in Malaysia are behaving no differently than the architects in Indonesia. Behaving no differently than the architects in Japan, in the United States. It is the same mind-numbing dominant paradigm everywhere in the world you go. We design for viral tourism, either local or international. And if the tourism doesn't come physically, we do it virtually. We make submissions to ridiculous sites like Art Daily, Dizine. I know, I've seen many of your Indonesian and Malaysian and Japanese architects there. Everyone goes to these pornographic websites. This is disgusting, yes? It's wrong.
And then after because looking at our situation now, I mean, it's very difficult it's very difficult situation for an architect here, where many young people try to have their own footsteps, and then the atmosphere of the marketing and all of the how the people react and the expectation of an architect service. It's they want to have the projects the more like into the they want the project to be unique, well, let's say, and then it's like more like into the project into like a spectacle.
Exactly.
So
because, yeah. So what is your question? Sorry.
So my question is, if let's say we can set up the system, right? If we can set up the system, if you have a view to set up the system like a profession and educations, can you like a note, for example, like in more systematic way, how we can collaborate to like have this kind of discourse in terms of the make the healthier ecosystem for our practice? That's my question.
I understand. The only healthy ecosystem is to go back to a time-tested formula. It's called apprenticeship. I'm sure we have heard this word before. Yes, apprenticeship.
Yes.
It's when you worked under someone who had the experience and the responsibility to guide you. The problem is these days, youth sells. If you are young and you have established yourself early, it sells, because when you are young, you are beautiful and you have everything, your whole future is ahead of you, you do much better, you see. That's why so many young architects, Bjarke Ingels, Saul Fujimoto, all these young people in the developed world, they made a big name for themselves. And the reason why everyone wants to do that is to follow this example. They set this example. It's a very bad example, because when you're young, you do not know enough. You do not know, not so much enough about how to create beautiful architecture. Everyone is good at this now. Everyone is doing beautiful architecture. You don't have to worry about whether you're behind. The problem is not whether it's beautiful or not. The problem is whether what you're doing is for your reputation or whether what you're doing is for your responsibility. And when you look at examples like Bjarke Ingels, when you look at examples like Diller Scofidio and Renfro, when you look at examples like Kunle Adeyemi or Saul Fujimoto, you are looking at the worst examples in the world. When you're looking at examples like any of the Pritzker Prize winners, and we can talk about this, we think that they're doing good work, but I will ask every one of you a question. How many of you have actually critically studied one of Rem Koolhaas's projects the same way I studied one of the projects I presented tonight? I don't think any of you can actually say you have. Even the Dutch architects, when I ask the Dutch architects, I make a very controversial statement, they go, how can you say this? And I ask, how many of you have studied a work of Rem Koolhaas critically? Almost none have. And the ones that do think they have studied it critically, but they've not. When you ask them which project it is, they will say the Seattle Art Library, the Seattle Library. And then you go, actually, that was not actually designed by Rem Koolhaas. It was designed by his Mexican staff. And they go, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's still by his office. And I asked them, okay, what is so special about this library? Oh, he made a multi-purpose ground floor, and the library is all above. Okay, but what is that about a library? What critical question does that ask about a library? Above, it is still like any other library in the world. Oh, the shelves are all spiral so that you can just stack it anywhere and the shelves just keep on spiraling upwards. That is not the biggest problem of a library, my friend. The problem of a library is what the original library is all about, browsing. You know the internet. Someone tells you about a wonderful video on YouTube. So the first thing you do, you go back to your laptop, you look for this video. But before you can even see a video, there's a small box on the side that shows you all about 50 other videos that are related to the video you're looking. So you start opening window after window, yeah? You're going to check on these. Such that before you even get to your video you're looking for, you have found 5 other videos that are almost more interesting than the one you actually went to see. This is called browsing, yeah? There's nothing that exists in the internet today that did not exist in the first libraries originally. It is about the act of accidental discovery, about going physically making discoveries, because in the old libraries, they got this huge cabinet called the card catalog. They have small drawers. Every drawer you pull out, there's a card in it. And each card represents a book. So even while you're looking where your book you're looking for is located, you will find other titles as you're looking for your book that you want to check out also. So even before you go to the shelves, you are already making accidental discoveries. You're already browsing through the card catalog. When you're walking to your shelf, the rack and the specific row, and then the specific shelf, you are looking the best libraries, the old ones by McKinnell, have the spines, as many spines as possible for you to start browsing as you're making your way to your correct row, your correct shelf. We don't understand anything about libraries today because we're not bothered to ask a question, what is a library? It's not a place to store books. It's not a place to read books. I have the best reading when I'm in the toilet, when I'm waiting for my flight, when I'm in a bus, you know.
Hey, Kevin.
Yes, sorry.
I
So
want
ask these questions, you see? And so
yes.
Famous architects are famous because they do good work. But
Yeah.
I can tell you, they do not do good work.
Kevin, if there is a client come to you, or let's say they want to ask you to design their library, and is it like the conversation that you will be discussing with them, or what's your method when you handle that kind of clients? I mean, you need to be friends with them like a brother and sister, right?
Yes, yes. Firstly, I never meet in the office. I'll never meet in my office also. I don't have an office. I'll meet them in a cafe, in a coffee shop, or maybe a restaurant, because that's where you meet friends. And the first meeting is very important. If you meet in an office, someone will always be a client and someone will always be a consultant, okay? Meeting in an office, either their office or your office, is the most stupid thing in the world because it sets up a whole set of expectations and a whole set of deliverables, which is the most inhuman thing possible. You should meet where you meet a friend. Meet in a restaurant, a cafe, talk over coffee, and then you make a friend. Even if the project doesn't happen, you still have a friend. It's nice. And then you talk to them about what their needs are, not their wants. Everyone knows what they want. Very few people know what they need. And if you talk to an intelligent client, they will understand what you're talking about. If they're not intelligent, they will insist on what they want. And then you know this is not a good job to take, no?
In this, I mean, I just want to extend the question because in this, like, to see the architecture ecosystem, there is the like a reputation pressure. Do you have any like your self note to overcome that kind of reputation pressure, like your self note?
Yeah, I think in a way it's a double-headed demon. Yeah, on the one hand, because I'm old, I'm 57 years old, I've been around enough so that many people know me. So when they come to me, they already kind of know what they are getting themselves, right? A certain amount of experience. And that's the reason why they look for me. But they also know that I'm very outspoken. They know that I'm incredibly rude. They know I'm blunt. I'm not diplomatic, If I think something is wrong, I will say that it's wrong. So in a way, it's good and bad, But usually I'm the worst at the first meeting because I want them to want me even though they think I'm horrible. And then after that, I love it when the clients will tell me, actually, you are so easy to work with. We thought you were horrible. Our first meeting was so bad. So I tried to be very bad in the beginning. And if they still want to stay with me, I know that they want it so badly that they will be good clients. And then I am such a good architect because I behave myself so well, no? Never set up false expectations. You're going to be in trouble,
Yes. Don't you have like afraid to do your architecture criticism to yourself, Kevin?
No, I enjoy it the most. Why should I be afraid?
No, how come you can set up that kind of mindset in your thinking?
Because
it's not common.
You have to, Rich, because if you don't, you cannot do the best work possible. If you rely on other people to tell you what mistakes you made, forget it. Everyone is too chicken-headed, right? No one wants to say bad things. Everyone is so stupid that they don't understand no one is perfect. No one is God, okay? And because we think we have to behave like our stupid heroes, we believe we have to behave like a stupid human God. And
hey, Kevin,
we have to be perfect. This is stupid, yes?
I know some of my Malaysian friends. I mean, do you have like any like a cultural pressure when you're like outspoken in terms of this
Asia is all about muka, yeah? Jangan pada muka, yeah? This also about face. It's Chinese, it's Indonesian, it's Malay, it's Indian. It's the most screwed up concept in the world. Your face means nothing. When you die, your face is going to disappear, okay? Your face isn't what you made. God gave it to you. God can take your face away from you. So don't be proud of your face. It means nothing. Your reputation is shit. When you can start with with understanding your reputation means nothing, you can learn the most about responsibility and not worry about what people think about what you say. Of course, you do not want to say things just to be rude. You don't say things just to, oi, kenapa dia cakap macam itu? Dia biadab, Of course, you don't say rubbish just to make people angry. You must have very, very important reasons. And that's why it's important never to give an opinion. Because an opinion is only about one viewpoint. This is your viewpoint. This is my viewpoint. Who is right and who is wrong? It's a stupid question, yeah?
Can you elaborate more?
The viewpoint. Oh, did you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah, the viewpoints.
The viewpoint is not important. It's how they relate that is important. This is the front. This is the back. They relate from the side. On the one side, there are three buttons. On the other side, there's one button. Okay, see, when you talk about your, that's why I don't like it when people ask me for my opinion. I don't give a crap about my opinion. Neither do I give a crap about your opinion. It's only when you can look at the opinion in relationship to others and understand the complex relationships that you are then being able to talk with a deeper truth. This is not the truth. This is not the truth. This is not the truth. The truth is when you can understand everything in relationship to each other,
Yes.
and then use it in a way which represents the entirety, right? The same with a cat, right? You have one viewpoint where the head goes in, right? You have another viewpoint which blocks the sunlight. You have another viewpoint where the sunlight is not blocked. But how do you understand what truth is when you can stop looking from your viewpoint or from someone else's viewpoint or 15 viewpoints. They mean nothing. It only means something when you can understand how the viewpoints relate. Not, oh, I can see your viewpoint. Who cares whether you can see my viewpoint? It's only one viewpoint again. Betul. You know, so it's about the relationships, and we do not know, we do not understand. This is the single most important principle. There is a truth. So don't make your opinion without thinking about the relationships. When you can argue with relationships, you can be complete. You don't have to worry at all about your reputation, because you're speaking on a level which is closer to the truth. So don't worry about being direct, about being blunt, as long as you're not talking about your ridiculous viewpoint. Your viewpoint means nothing. Yeah.
Okay, I got the point when the architecture criticism is very important to form your evaluation of the method. And therefore,
because you can't improve yourself if you don't critique yourself.
Yes.
So every drawing I do, I'm always making changes. I'm critiquing again and again. Even after it's complete, it's being constructed, I will make changes as far as I can improve it. If it's not too difficult and not expensive, if I don't have to demolish anything.
I understand that your thinking is like a one circular view. You know, you got like a architecture criticism, and you got the evaluation of your method, and you can provide your worldview. And then right now, I just want to ask something quite probably out of the box, because of I want to have a relation into your thinking. It's more like a architecture is more not like a solving a problem, but it's more like a systematic discursive a way of thinking. I just want to have your view. I just curious to see the imagination and the fantasy in your work.
You sure you want to see my view?
Yes. I mean, I'm curious. I mean, do you think like imagination and fantasy is like a bullshit or whatever?
Well, what did we just talk about? Viewpoints, yeah.
Yes, I mean, I just want to see your relation about criticism and the imagination and fantasy in the creating the world.
Okay, I think, real rich. The first thing is this: I do not do work because of the work. A lot of architects will say, oh, they teach because they're doing research for their work, right? This is the common thing everywhere in the world. They teach because it's research for the work. For me, it's the other way around. After 6 months into teaching 20 years ago, I realized I was doing work because I wanted to teach better. So to me, it is not a loop in the direction, in the way of teaching, research, work. It is not. It is work as research for teaching, because I think being able to discuss ideas is more important to me than the work I do. So maybe this is the reason why you are trying to understand how I think. But everything I've talked about in every session you have invited me to, and maybe even before that, has been my process already.
Yes.
Everything begins with the specificity of context. What is makoko? Oh, it's not floating actually. Oh, why is it not floating? Thin columns, economy, poor people, organism, structure. Everything comes out from the context. So my process of thinking, my inspiration is not from inside of me. It's from outside of me. But it's not from another object. It's not from another architect. It's not from birds or bees or things that exist that have nothing to do with my sight. It has got to do with the specific context, the specific circumstance which surrounds every single site I find myself in as a visitor. Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
That is how I think, you see. So in a way, I answered your question even before you asked it,
Yes, I understand it.
Yes, yes.
I just trying to be the bridge, to understand your way to process the information and to project your standpoint.
So let's take the example of the Makoko school. What would I have done if I had been given this commission? Yeah, I would have definitely, firstly, not have put the school in the lagoon floating. I would have put it directly in the middle, as close to. I'll find out who is willing to move their house a bit further away, so that the children can benefit from having a more central location of a school. And I'll try to find as many buildings as close as possible to the existing school, because the existing school already has an address. People already know where it is. The orientation is there. I will try to make room as much as possible in order for the school to expand in that way, so that the school is embedded and it has already got its structural integrity, and I can then focus on putting better issues to storage, because schools always have very bad storage, and how to have better access to the school. The issues that the people struggle with the most. I'll not float it somewhere where it's so stupid, yeah, to make this iconic. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. But we always want to, because this is what we can take the photograph. You put a school inside the existing building, you take a photograph, oh, it looks exactly like the Makoko, it's already out there. What is your project? Yeah, cannot laugh, can't Instagram, can't Twitter, can't Facebook. Yeah, we are so hung up on our status as a musical performer, we don't give a crap about what the stage is. We just make the stage what we want it to do. This is wrong, no? What would I have done in the highline? Oh, sorry, go on.
Yes, sorry, Kevin. Please go on.
Go ahead. You have a question.
I mean, I feel that this session is like I can know that the dialogue with the organism itself, that the Makoko is like a microorganism. It's definitely is very important. Sometimes that as an architect, you like a lack of time and lack of the need, and then to have a dialogue with the what's there. Is it?
We don't lack time, Rich. We do not lack time. We use all our time to create our own idea of what we want, what project we want to do in order to contrast with the context as big as possible. That's where we put all our effort and all our passion. We have the time, we just don't care. We don't allow the context to give us our best ideas.
Do you have like an example, Kevin, in your point of view, in Southeast Asia, or let's say in Southeast Asia, like a project that have like a specific context?
That is a good project. Studio Labo.
It's not about the glorification of things, yeah. I mean, it's just about to show.
Studio Labo.
Daddy and Nelly.
Yes, Daddy and Nelly. Their office is one of the best projects I have seen in all of Indonesia. The office, their first one, yeah, because they put the house on one side, they put the office on the other side, and the middle space is where you enter. And the first thing you come to is the 2 trees down the slope, which serves as the place where they string up a beautiful, wonderful cloth to make the projection for. So they made the central space, they gave it back to Bandung, yes? And this is fantastic. Inside each of the office and the house, I don't care about that so much. Of course, I've not examined or studied it more. But in relation to using the space in between as the social space, this is fantastic. It's amazing. I love this. But a lot of the other projects they do that I've studied, I don't think they're very good. So do you see, this is the wonderful thing. No architect is perfect. You can do an incredibly great project and still do many other projects that are not good. Isn't it wonderful to know we are not God? Yes.
Yeah.
And Mamo Adi Purnomo, he has done a design, a very good project, but it was never built. It is the Tsunami Memorial. It's a brilliant project. Very, very unfortunate it did not get built, because if it was built, it would have been his best project, I feel. Because he's not only creating a memorial, he was also creating a platform that can be used to avoid a tsunami if it ever comes again. It was a statement as a symbol of what a tsunami protection center could also be. It's a brilliant project. If you don't know this project, you should Google it. I think he has it somewhere. It's his best project, I think.
Okay.
Andra Martin, yeah, his own house could have been his best project. But I still think he's thinking, could have been. It did not end up that way because he made each room for his children separate. Originally, the large space in the middle was the space that all the children would share. The bedrooms are just the small cabins around it, but he separated it in the end, which is in a way it went against his original fantastic concept. Yeah, and maybe the other things which are not so good. Maybe it doesn't ventilate so well. I understand you need to air condition all the time, and I think for a lot of Ang's project, he also says you need to air condition because the clients, they insist on air conditioning. Yeah, but I don't think it's necessary. I think clients can be persuaded to avoid air conditioning, maybe only in the bedroom, not the entire house. So a lot of the glass doors and glass panels cannot be open in his buildings, which is unfortunate. But at least in his own house, his ground floor is completely open. But this original concept was fantastic for his house. I really liked it.
I can feel that. I can see that the social activism is very important.
Not social activism. It's about relationships, Rich. Do not mistake relationships between people for activism. It's not activism. It's humanism. Yeah?
Yes, humanism.
Basic
you need to.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to fight for not only passive, right, Kevin?
Sorry.
You need to fight for the cause, right?
Well, I don't consider it fighting. I just talk about it as by way of presenting to the client common sense. That a client that wants separate bathrooms and big bedrooms for all the children, I will ask them first, did you have a big bedroom when you were a child? And almost all clients all had small bedrooms when they were a child. They had to share the bedroom with the brothers and sisters. And so I say, if this is fine for you, why is it not okay for your children? You are older, you have made the money your whole life, you deserve a slightly bigger bedroom to escape from the problems. You deserve an attached bathroom. I don't expect you to share your bathroom. But your children, when they grow older, when they make the money, they can go and build their own castle in the sky. Why do they need to be treated like a lord and a king now? Your children should be with the family where they belong, where you felt you belong when you were their age. So the rooms should be as small as possible, so they don't spend all the time in a silly dark cave playing with a bloody iPad and their handphones, doing things that you don't know what they're doing. They can share the bathroom if they're two girls or two boys. They don't need separate individual bathrooms. The biggest rooms in any house should be the dining room, the kitchen, the dining room, and the living room, where the whole family shares. This is common sense. It is not unreasonable. And most people who, even no matter how rich and how spoiled they are, they understand this.
Yeah.
They agree. And you tell them you save money. Don't air condition the living room, the kitchen, and you have good ceiling fans and good ventilation, which I will design for you. You're already good. You can have the aircon in the bedroom. Some nights are too hot. Okay, fine. Yeah, once in a while use it. But even then, I will design the bedrooms to be well ventilated so that if they choose not to use aircon, they have an option. But many architects, the moment they hear, oh, we want aircon, they will design the room like something beautiful out of Japan or out of Switzerland or out of New York, where the window is so cool and it cannot open and there's concrete everywhere. And it's like, wait a minute, hello. should we not think about options, At least giving a choice if the client finally changes their mind or sells the house to someone else who loves fresh air, who loves the air change,
Okay.
It's silly. Yeah.
Kevin, just to extend a question from the audience,
Sure.
do you know Eko Prawoto? They ask about when
Sure.
people ask about what do you think of Mr. Eko Prawoto's project?
I think a lot of them are very workable. There's a lot of cross ventilation. There's a lot of sensibility, which I feel is more common sense that most architects lack. So he is in the 95 percentile of really, really good work. But what I do not see maybe is a questioning and a specific relationship to the specific context that each of his project is in. In what way does that specificity make that particular project completely different from any other project he has done? I don't see that. Like Studio Labo. You cannot put that Studio Labo anywhere else. With the two big trees, with that slope, it can only be in that site they did in Bandung. Maybe you will have to search for another site you can do that, But this is what I love about that project. It's Nelly and Daddy, they were so specific when they were thinking about what they were going to do. It can only fit in that site, you see. But I don't see this so much for Eko Prawoto's work. I don't know if he's here tonight. If he is, he should scold me. He can tell me, no, you're wrong, or something. But we should talk, But yes, I feel that there's not enough maybe specificity. And by specificity, I also mean the good light from the morning, the bad light, which is in the west in the afternoon, the even light, which is from the north. How does that change where you put the bathroom or the bedroom? Where does that change where you put the kitchen? Yes, I think in some of his projects, the kitchen is in the west. This is not a good place for the kitchen. I think same with Budi Pradono. He's also one of the. He's got a very, very good house. He designed for his mother. Near Surabaya. Oh, no, near Samarang. I think it's near Samarang. It's a fantastic house. It's a mountain house.
You've been there?
Huh? Yes.
Okay.
I went there to visit. It's a very, very lovely house, but there's some things that could have been a bit better ventilated. The east and the west light, I think, is one of the biggest problems. But it's a very, very beautiful house, I must say. But a bit too not enough specificity, I think, to the immediate context.
Okay.
The wind flow, yeah, and the bathrooms and kitchen.
Okay. Kevin, last two questions from the audience and one from me.
Of course.
I would like to have a Yeni, because the question I think is
okay.
Try. We can hear her voice. Yeni, are you here?
Yes.
Yeah. Please go on. I just want to see some of the audience voice. Please.
I'm reading your question anyway, Yeni. So you can just summarize it for me.
Yes.
Yes, Kevin, thank you for your sharing. Actually, it's quite hard for me to understand, because you're very anti-mainstream for architect like me. I usually work in projects, then we usually follow what the user or the owner wants to do with our project. So usually cannot be like you so idealistic in your project. So but it's very interesting. Thank you for reminding us that we have to be a responsible architect, to be more humble and to to find the solution more than just finding the beautiful design for our projects. But yes, but I have one question for you. How do you make a living then?
Okay, Yeni, I understand your question. There are two parts to your question. The first part is we are not as famous as you, and so how do we make our point to the client to have them agree with our idea, right?
Yes, okay. And we're younger than you.
Let me explain. The way I explain to my clients when I was your age is no different than the way I explain to my clients now. Okay, so there's no difference. You can make your clients understand what you're trying to do by explaining exactly the same way as I do. When I try to explain an idea, I will talk exactly like the way I did earlier with Real Rich. I will talk about your children's bedroom do not need to be big. they can be small. When they grow up, they can have their own expensive house. Today, you do not treat them like a rich homeowner. You treat them like your child. And their rooms can be small. What client is going to disagree with that? And then I tell them, when I design your bedroom or your house, I'll design it so that you have the option to completely open it if you want not to use air con anymore. What client is going to disagree with that? Whether it is coming from you or from me, it's the same. They will listen to common sense. I will tell them, I do not like to use so much plaster and paint because plastering a brick wall is almost the same cost as building that brick wall. So I will use paint to stop the water from coming through. We use slightly better quality bricks so the water cannot go through, but we try not to plaster as much as possible to save money for the other things which are more important. What client is going to disagree with that? Do you understand?
Yes.
So whatever argument I try to make, I don't try to tell them, oh, you must have black color and you must make the building shaped like Superman because it looks very special then, you see, to the view. I don't want to talk about, because they might say, no, I want Wonder Woman. And I don't like black, I like pink. So the moment you try to argue about sculpture, about anything that is like art, or Mozart, or Beethoven, or Bon Jovi, you have missed the point, you see? And unfortunately, you are looking at the example of famous architects who are able to do any kind of monster they want, you see? Godzilla, it's okay. King Kong, it's also okay. The client will agree because you are a famous architect. But I do not like to think of myself as a famous architect. I just like to think of what I do as the most reasonable thing for a client. I will say, your site is facing the good view, but that view is also facing west. You say you want to put your bedroom to face the good view, but this is very stupid because when your bedroom is west, it will gather all the afternoon heat. And your bedroom, it will be the hottest room at night because it's on top, it is facing west. And the worst thing is, when you are in your bedroom, you never look at the view. You never look at the view because when you're in your bedroom, you're sleeping. When you wake up in the weekday, you are trying to get to work. You will be too busy to look at the view. You will wake up early in the morning before the sun is risen, probably because traffic in Jakarta is very bad, and you'll be rushing downstairs. You will not look at the view. In the weekend, when you can look at the view, you're trying to sleep in. You will pull the curtains. You will sleep later, right? So I will argue to put your bedroom facing the good view to the west is the most stupid thing in the world because your bedroom is for sleeping. The best rooms to face the good view is the rooms everyone shares on the ground floor, and maybe you can make it 2 stories and with good sun shading so that when the afternoon sun is high and very hot, you block all the heat. But when it comes low, the beautiful sunset, you can open up 2-story space, the hot air will still rise, and everyone shares that view when they are awake. You understand?
Yes.
So I don't need to present my project to you because just in a simple argument, I've already presented you a project for a client who says, I want my bedroom to face the good view. But because you are not a stupid architect and you say, okay, I will do that. And then you do that and then you make a Superman and they say, no, I want Wonder Woman. And then you say, my project looks so ugly. And I can tell you, not only does your project look ugly, it doesn't work as well because your stupid bedroom is the hottest space at night when you are sleeping. But just because you're able to say, hey, client, I'm not going to do Wonder Woman for you, even though you want Wonder Woman. But I'm going to argue with you that your bedroom should not look at the view. Why? Because you're sleeping. You will not look at the view in your bedroom. But where everyone is eating dinner, breakfast, not dinner maybe, but breakfast or lunch on the weekend, you will share the view. This is for the whole family, not for the bedroom. Number 2, if your bedroom is facing west, it is the hottest room at night. Even if you want to use aircon, your aircon has to work full-time, double time to make the room cool. You're spending more money, bodoh atau tidak. And your client will say, my God, you are a good architect. You are taking care of me because you are thinking not only about what I want, but whether what I want is sensible in relation to specific context. Do you understand?
Yes.
So this is how important specific context is. It gives you the power to change a client's mind without needing to argue with them. Oh, but Superman, red and blue, cantik. And then ada sikit kuning you tahu. Oh, but Wonder Woman, ada lain, apalah, you know. No, this is stupid argument, betul. You like pink, I like black. Who is right and who's wrong? This is stupid argument. You cannot win. Betul? But with specific context, you can win every single argument because you are not winning. There's no winner and loser. There's only truth.
Have you ever compromised, Kevin?
Of course I've compromised.
Sometimes like people asking like I don't like that exposed brick.
Oh, no. I'm not compromised like that because generally clients don't make arguments like that. My compromise is of a much bigger, a much worse failure actually.
Like what? Can you make an example, Kevin?
I designed a 50-story building in Bangkok. I should not have done this because big buildings are not sustainable. There's so much concrete. Even concrete now, I'm trying to rethink what I can do because concrete is not a sustainable material. It is killing the planet, you know. So, but I compromise because for this site in Bangkok, it is the only site I've ever encountered for a high-rise project that was offered as a commission that would not block the morning light of the major part of the residential neighborhood. And it was facing on the west, a major highway. So that I did not block the morning light of the neighborhood on the east, but I blocked some of the morning light for the more commercial neighborhood on the west. Right? And the wind flow and the neighbors on either side are also mid-rise, and I felt they would not suffer so much. One neighbor to the back, a few doors away, is 2-story high, but they were not immediately next to it. And this is also not a good thing to do. If I was living where he was, I'll not be so happy to have such a tall building next to me. This is also not good. So I compromised because I wanted to test my ability with a high rise to be able to see if I can do one by myself without any staff. And I said, okay, I'll take this job. But I turned down maybe about eight high-rise projects before this because the site was so bad. The context was very small people, you know, is not a good thing to do to the neighbors.
Okay, got your point. Okay, Bu Yeni, is there any concern or any response?
Yeah, one more thing.
Kevin,
can you show me one of your best project you think that work? Which has the minimal failure?
None of them have minimal failures.
The minimal failure that you think.
I think my most recent renovation on my first house, on the Lightwell house, I've not got any photographs anywhere. That would be a very good project for me because it's very, very specific. I spend very little money and it accomplishes many, many things without doing too much. But it's also it's only for myself, you see. So I was able to maybe do a good project there. Maybe for one or two clients. But you always, whenever you think back of a project, it's complete. I only can think of the mistakes, not of the success. You know, I always think of what I can do better. You know, and whatever I do well, maybe is just one part, one small thing, not the whole thing. Like maybe one staircase or one small projects. You know, it's all small projects. It's not one big one. You know, I designed quite good fire escape stairs. I think my fire escape stairs are quite cheap and they're also very functional and cost efficient. Yeah, I designed quite good fire stairs. Those are good projects.
Okay, Bu Yeni.
Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Yeni, very much for your question.
Okay, Kevin, I have a last question before making like the summary.
Of course.
For you. From what the discussion, it's very interesting that I think there is like a value to be an architect. I just want to have do you have something that you're afraid of, Kevin? Like your shadow? Can you share? Because you're like a very brave on like outspoken and like I mean to be honest, I'm learning so much to like reposition the thinking in a very striking way from you tonight. I just want to see what's your shadow and what's the things that you're afraid of.
I'm afraid of not learning anymore. I'm afraid of becoming my own monster maybe one day. You know, there's a very famous artist. He brands himself a dissident artist. You know, Ai Weiwei from China. He did a very, very famous exhibition in early 2000. It was called the Uncooperative Attitude. It was in Chinese, but actually it interpreted, it was called the Fuck You exhibition, you know, because he superimposed his middle finger on all the famous buildings in the world, the Eiffel Tower, the Forbidden City, the White House. He even superimposed on Hong Kong. You know, it was a very famous exhibition. And it was very relevant because he was saying, just because you call yourself a tourist attraction, that you are something that the whole country is supposed to feel proud of, it doesn't mean that you are beneficial to the country. And so I say, fuck you, and put his middle finger. You see, he took the middle finger and he showed, do you want me to show you this? Is it too much time? I don't know.
No, you can share it to us. It's very good.
Yeah, okay, give me a second, yeah? I'll look for it. I need to dig it up somewhere. Wait, let me look for it. I think it was in the first pass. I adjusted the presentation. Actually, it was supposed to be something else, but here. Okay, I'll full screen this. How do I? This was Ai Weiwei's first. It was for exhibition in 2000. It was the Shanghai Biennale and one of the Shanghai Biennales, and he did an alternative thing because the Shanghai Biennale didn't invite all the underground artists, all the alternative artists. So Ai Weiwei curated this. And in the curation, you're not supposed to show your own work, but he did his own work. And it became more popular than all the other poor other artists you're supposed to be promoting, right? So you can see his middle finger at St. Mark's, the White House, Eiffel Tower, Forbidden City, some random chapel in Rome, Hong Kong, and the Mona Lisa. Yeah, this is all his middle finger, and he's saying "fuck you" to these. The kind of like, in a way, a similar criticism I'm making of tourist attractions, that they in fact do the most damage to the people that live in that part of the city. You know, so this was what made him very, very famous as a dissident artist. More recently, he has done some horrible, horrible things. Let me show you this. This was a API photograph of a 5-year-old Syrian refugee boy. His name is Alan Turki. He was washed up on the Turkish coast, his dead body, taken by API photograph. It went around the world already to show how horrible the human crisis situation was happening in Syria. What Ai Weiwei did was he put his body on some pebble beach, some privileged coast somewhere in the world, and took a black-white photograph, posing exactly as Alan Turki did. You can see the comparison, yeah? His feet in exactly the same way, the upturned hand. And he did this, why? Because he wanted to create more awareness of the tragedy that's happening in Syria. So the question is asked, was he doing his art to create greater awareness of the horrors of the global situation? Or was he using the awareness already of the horrors of the global condition to create greater global awareness of his own art? The photograph came before his art. It was already famous around the world. So what is he actually doing? Promoting global awareness of the horrors of the human condition, or using the context of the horrors to promote his own filthy art? He has also been responsible for many horrible things. Aside from his very first one, his first was destroying what he called a priceless Ming vase, using destruction for his art, as a calling card for his art. He uses big blow-up dolls to create awareness of the refugee crisis when all these photographs are already out there. He creates ghost cities in Mongolia. So what I did was I superimposed his own middle finger on his own face, and I sent him a Christmas card a few years ago. And my biggest fear is that I will become like Ai Weiwei maybe one day, where I have to use his middle finger on my own face. That I'm not being responsible to as I tried that everyone else must be responsible, right? Correct. So that is maybe one of my fears, that I stop being self-critical, for my own self in my own work.
That's deep. Can I ask for the closing from you, Kevin, or I'll just want to close?
It doesn't matter what decision any of you make in life. You can become a famous architect if you want. You can become like a conductor or a famous rock star, on the stage, where you use the context only for your own benefit. You can make any decision you want. This talk is not for you to make the same decision I have made. But whatever decision you choose for your life, do not tell lies about it. Do not pretend it is something that it is not. That is the only thing that God expects from you. It is the only thing that you or anyone can expect of yourself. Yes? This is the only reason why I'm talking about these issues tonight, is to give you an idea that you have an option. You do not need to follow in the footsteps of the people, of your heroes, or the people you idolize. In fact, you should not idolize anyone. You should not follow anyone, because you only know if you can lead or not if you choose not to follow. And that is an option that you have in your life. But whatever you choose, just be honest. And that is my closing message. I think I said the same thing the last time I was on Oma Library,
Thank you, Kevin.
No, you're so welcome.
I shall conclude your presentation, our discussion, which is Kevin. Kevin started the discussion, the sharing with the questions like is architecture as a mother of all art. I mean, in the discussions we can see that it's the art of humanity. I mean, it's the art of how to be honest, how to relate to yourself, to the others, like bringing one more time, like an art of humanity. It's a time-tested formula, I think. He looked for how the Guru Chela, the ones that I remember, coined by Charles Correa about apprenticeship, and the young people is very important. I think he's like an archetype. He's like a teacher archetype. He love to have like a discussion, even then discussing about the work. I mean, the work probably is about the discussion of the work itself, not about the result of the work.
Yes.
I mean, I love you, Kevin. When I mean, when you feels like you're horrible. You're not horrible at all. And I love to meet you again and again. It's like the first time we meet. And then
were you at the recent event organized by Jelek in Bandung?
No.
It was interesting because the students from Indonesia, I met them almost 8 years ago or 6 years ago, and they came up with the first event where the architect is invited to talk about the mistakes. So I spoke about the actual projects I did, but all the mistakes,
That's good, right?
You would be there. Yes. Anyway, sorry.
Okay. I kind of feel that it's a way to decolonize, even. To feel that we need to fight for the ecosystem pressure that sometimes makes us dishonest. You have like 3 case studies, like Kunya Adeyemi,
Yes.
like the Highline, and then your own nearby gardens. I mean, the situation in your nearby garden in your neighborhood.
Yes.
Which is, I think, is very. You try to make it real as the far off in Africa and in America, and is far off in your playfield.
Yeah.
So it makes that your shadow is the way that you're afraid of the things that you are spoke. You cannot face if your work or your attitude become the critic that you are doing. So I can feel that you in this discussion, the quite important part when you digest the Kunya Adeyemi work with the microorganism, which is I feel that the dialogue is very important and it shows the value. But to do it, to be honest, is not difficult. it feels difficult, but it's not difficult, like what you said. But I found out in Indonesia, it's very related to the context that we have to hear from the social layer. So our work can have like the social network for the future. So I think that's the most important part. It's not about the tectonics, it's not the materiality, it's not about the details and so on, the working. I mean, it's important, but the
Yes.
most important part is the social network.
It's all important, actually, real rich. Just because I don't talk about beauty, it doesn't mean it's not important. Of course, beauty is important. Of course, tectonics is important. But unfortunately, with all these events, that's all the architect ever talks about: beauty and tectonics, right? And this is what's crazy, that we need more balance. That's why whenever I present, I always talk about the other side, you see? Because otherwise, I'll just be doing the same thing all these other rubbish architects are doing. No, it's not good, yeah? So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying beauty is not important, but you cannot avoid it even if you try. We all love beautiful things, no?
Yeah, it's important, I think. But this time, let's look at the architecture in the other side.
Yes, yes.
And just pause a bit, and then we can reflect. And thank you, Kevin, to share
You're so welcome.
your shadow. It's very deep, and I finally I know where it comes from.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much, Ulrich. Thank you all for being here tonight. Have a wonderful weekend ahead. Yes. Thanks so much.
Okay, Kevin, as far as you know, our librarian in Omah Library, I asked them, I mocked them, do you want to be moderator for Kevin? They said, no. No, I love to meet him.
I'm not so scary, you know. I'm quite okay.
Yeah, listen to it, guys. Kevin is not scary. He's so lovely, you know.
I would sound angry, you know, when I'm presenting. I sound very angry at these people, but you know, I'm not actually. I just
Yes, I know. You bring the message, Kevin, like a waking up everybody.
Yeah,
I know.
I hope so.
Thank you, Kevin, for all of these initiations. Okay. Thank you, Satria, Nirma, Hanifa, and then Lulu for the preparing this talk. Satria, shall I pass you the
Yeah, sure.
to you? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, really. Thank you, Kevin, for such a thoughtful discussion.
Oh, Satya, my pleasure. Thank you.
It's very wonderful tonight. Where we have some very deep hearing from you guys.
Next time, maybe you can moderate, no?
Yeah, I hope so.
It's good.
Okay.
Challenge me. Ask me difficult questions. Okay. Thanks so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Kevin. So we will have a photo session. So please, everyone, turn on the video. 1, 2, 3. Check.
Thanks.
1, 2, 3. Check. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for staying here until the end of the session, and see you in the next week. With Eka Swadiansa.
Terima kasih.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you again, Kevin.
Talk to you again soon, Kevin.